guys, welcome back to Crazy Enough. I am so glad you're here with me today, as always. If you've been following along, you know that we've been on a journey together. In episode 2, we talked about finding your why. In episode 3, we went deep into my betrayal story. And today, episode 4, we're going even deeper. We're going to talk about something that has carried me through every single season of my life: faith. And not just faith in God or the universe, but faith in yourself, in your intuition, in your gifts, and in the timing of life, even when it doesn't feel right. We're also going to talk about perspective, because the way that you look at things, it changes everything. Now, I know I promised a guest, and don't worry, they're coming, I promise. But if you listened last week, you remember me saying, sometimes you've got to listen to your gut and not force something that isn't aligned. And my gut has been telling me to just keep going solo for a little while longer, to keep sharing my story, to keep using my own voice. And honestly, I think that fits perfectly into today's theme, because we're talking about faith. Faith that when I listen to my intuition, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. So let's dive in. We're going to go way back. I know we always go way back, but we're going way back this time. We're going pre-salt and pepper days, when I was actually a wedding planner. And this was before salt and pepper was even a dream. This was before the Grace email, which we're going to get into today. This is before I even thought about packaging as a profession. I was a wedding planner, like I said. And here's the thing, that job was me chasing the one thing that I wanted the most in life: marriage, commitment, and building a family. I longed for it. I craved it. And deep down, I knew that I wasn't getting it in the relationship I was in. But instead of facing that truth head on, I created a job that allowed me to live in the fantasy of it every single day. I poured myself into designing dream weddings for other people. I obsessed over the flowers, the timelines, the invitation fonts, the candlelight on the tables, all the little details. And don't get me wrong, I was good at it. My clients were happy, their days were beautiful. But here's the hard truth: I was living out their dreams while ignoring the fact that mine weren't being fulfilled. And that's something I want you to think about. Have you ever created a situation for yourself or taken on a role that really just mirrored something you were secretly longing for? Sometimes we chase the reflection of what we want instead of actually going after the real thing. And that was me, 100%. And I think you guys can guess, but eventually me and this person, we didn't work out, right? So we know what happens. The breakup comes. And we had 8 years together, from my early 20s through most of that decade. And this relationship, it was my identity. We did everything together: holidays, friends, routines, inside jokes. He was woven into every part of my story. And when it ended, it felt like my whole world collapsed. I remember thinking, who am I without him? I wasn't just losing a partner, I was losing the version of myself I thought I was. And that's where identity comes in. Because when you attach who you are to someone else when they leave, it feels like you leave too. It took me months, honestly years, to unravel that, to learn that my identity wasn't, quote unquote, his girlfriend. My identity wasn't tied to whether I was in a relationship. My identity was mine to define. And that's where faith stepped in for the first time in a big way. I didn't want my future. And that's where faith stepped in for the first time in a big way. I didn't know what my future looked like. I didn't know what my career would be. I didn't even know who I was. But I had to trust that if I kept showing up one day at a time, I would figure it out. And that's the first big lesson that I want to leave you with today is that your identity, it can't live in someone else's pocket. It has to live in you. So if you've ever gone through a breakup or a loss or even leaving a career that defined you, you know the grief of it. But also, you know that there's freedom on the other side. And that's where the shift all started to happen for me. And this is where the story really starts to get interesting. So while I was planning weddings for clients, my clients started asking for more. Can you do bridesmaids gifts? Can you do groomsmen's gifts? Can you put welcome boxes together for our guests? And at first, I just sort of saw this as extra work, more late night sourcing, more manual labor, more moving parts. But then something clicked. I realized, you know what? I actually really love this part, the packaging, the design, the presentation, the storytelling through a box. And at first I thought, maybe this is just a side service, just we'll do wedding welcome boxes. It'll be something cute, something additional. But the more I did it, the more I realized this could be bigger, much bigger. What if it wasn't just welcome boxes? What if it was corporate gifting? What if it was packaging for events or product launches? What if it was influencer boxes? What if it was full-scale mailers? And suddenly I saw the bigger picture. This wasn't just about gifts. This was about packaging as an experience. And if there's one thing that I've known in my bones was my calling, it was design and packaging. From the time I was a little girl, y'all, I have been obsessed. I mean, literally, I could fall over like when I look at a beautiful package. I'm not joking. I know it sounds crazy, but I love it that much. So that's where the seed was planted. It was before Grace, which we're getting into. It was before Salt and Pepper had a name. The desire was already sitting there. It was waiting. Okay, now we're going to get into the Grace email because I know you guys want to know, and I've mentioned it a couple of times now. So anyway, this is where the story gets fun because this is where Grace shows up, and she shows up in my inbox. And at the time, I had a girl named Jamie and she was working for me and we were in the car and we were headed to a meeting and I don't remember why, but for some reason she was driving the car and I was in the passenger seat and I was scrolling through emails and then bing, it was Grace and she was inquiring about wedding planning services, except she forgot to BCC 99 other planners. She was fishing for packages, if you guys didn't catch the drift. But right there in front of me, right? 99 planners. Now, I could have ignored it. I could have told myself, that's not for me. But something inside said, this is it. This is your list. So that's what we did. The very next week, we took that list of 99 planners and we emailed them. I think it was like 96 to be exact. And I said, hi, I'm Mary. I'm a wedding planner. It's so nice to meet you. I wanted to let you know I'm launching this new business and I'm sending out free VIP gifts. Would you like one? And I know what you guys are thinking, right? Like, who's going to say no to a free VIP gift? But honestly, I really didn't even know if people would reply. And to my surprise, 69 said yes. And here's the thing. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know how to open a wholesale account. I didn't know fulfillment. I just knew that I had to start. So I ordered products. I arranged them in baskets. I shipped them out. There was no plan. There was no roadmap, just faith. And let me tell you, I was terrified. I didn't know if people would like them. I didn't know if they'd post about them. I didn't even know if they would arrive in one piece. But then it happened. The post started showing up on Instagram. And this was before the meta days, before all of the crazy algorithms. This is when they just used to timeline stack photos. But it was the planners and they were thanking me and they shared my work. And sure enough, the orders started trickling in. And that was the beginning. It was the seed. Salt and Pepper didn't just start as a polished company as it is today. It started with a girl who had just lost herself, just lost her relationship, and decided to have faith that something new could be born from the pain. And of course, like I said, it didn't start as Salt and Pepper. At first, it was the ultimate wedding bag. Yeah, not exactly inspiring, I know. But then came this moment in the cafe, and there was this sunlight, and it was beaming in. And I had this memory of being 23 years old, and I was in Colorado, and I was telling my parents that, if I have a company, I'm going to name it Salt and Pepper Productions. And I distinctly remember them sort of saying, "Well, why would you do that?" And I said, "Because every table needs salt and pepper. It's universal." And I wanted to create something that was universal. So that was the moment. It was divine timing. The name was given to me. It wasn't forced. It was faith. And that's when I knew this wasn't just about weddings anymore. This was about something bigger. This was about packaging as a calling. And that calling, it carried me from weddings, gifting, packaging, corporate gifting, influencer mailers, all the way to where Salt and Pepper is today. And here's what I've learned about faith through all of this. Faith isn't about certainty. It's about trusting one step at a time. Faith grows with you. In my 20s, faith meant survival, just getting through the heartbreak. In my 30s, it meant alignment, trusting that my business was my calling. And now faith means surrender. It means believing the universe is painting my path even when I can't see it. Faith, it pairs with action. You don't just sit and wait. You have to move. You email those 96 planners. You ship those 69 boxes. You say yes, even when you don't know how. And that's how doors open. Now, I'm going to shift a little bit from faith to perspective because they do actually go hand in hand. And I want to share a story from James Keyes, who I actually had the privilege of hearing at a small meetup recently. Now, for those of you who don't know him, James Keyes was the former CEO of Blockbuster and 7-Eleven. And yes, I know what you're thinking. Blockbuster? Well, Netflix beat him, right? But here's the thing. He was sitting right there. Like, I'm talking a few feet away from me. And he was talking about leadership, resilience, failure, and perspective. And it was powerful. Because here's a man who had seen massive success and massive failure. And yet his outlook was so inspiring. He said, life is all about perspective. And then he shared this simple but powerful story. It was about a little boy who was out playing a game of baseball by himself, just him, a bat, and a ball. And I believe his mom was in the bleachers. And he'd toss up the ball. And every time he tossed up the ball, he'd say, "I'm the best batter in the world." And then strike one happened, right? And so then he did it again. He tossed the ball up in the air. "I'm the best batter in the world." Didn't hit it. Strike two. Third time, throws the ball up in the air. "I'm the best batter in the world." Ball comes down. He doesn't hit it. Strike three. And up in the bleachers, I'm sure his mom is watching, just hoping that he hits the ball one time, right? But the little boy, as he kept swinging, right? I told you, he kept saying, "I'm the best batter in the world." And after those three strikes, he technically was out, right? The game was over. But this is where the story gets good. Instead of throwing the bat down in frustration, instead of pouting or crying, the little boy smiled. He set the bat aside and he said, "Well, I'm the best pitcher in the world." Are you guys catching this? He struck himself out But he also changed his mindset from I'm the best batter in the world to I'm the best pitcher in the world. I love that story so much. So let's pause here because I want you guys to reflect on three things. And the first thing is where in your life are you chasing a reflection of what you really want? Like me, planning weddings when what I really longed for was the wedding itself. And where do you need to start, even if you don't know how? Like me, emailing the 96 planners with no roadmap. And where can you shift your perspective, like the boy with the baseball, to see yourself differently? I'd love for you guys to grab a journal, write those down, and DM me your answers. On Instagram, it's at Crazy Enough Podcast, or you guys can email me, Mary at Crazy Enough Podcast, because I'd love to hear your stories. So here's the takeaway for today. Faith, it carried me through heartbreak. Faith carried me into my calling. Faith carried me through betrayal, through the grind, and through the unknown. And perspective turned what felt like failures into stepping stones. It turned closed doors into new paths. It turned endings into beginnings. And maybe that's where you are right now. Maybe you're in the middle of the heartbreak or the waiting or the confusion. If that's you, I just want you to know it won't always feel like this. You will find your way forward because that's what faith does. It doesn't give you all the answers up front. It doesn't remove the pain or the challenge. What it does is it gives you strength to take one more step, even when you don't see the path clearly. And when you pair that with perspective, you start asking, what if this isn't the end of the story? What if this is actually the beginning of something new? That's when life starts to shift. Now, before I wrap, I just want to remind you of something special. If you've been listening from the start, you know that this podcast follows the journey of my By Noon candle collection. Each candle represents a stage in the entrepreneurial and personal journey, like little markers around the clock. In episode 1 and 2, we talked about voice. And in episode 3, we talked about onward. It was the betrayal story. And I paired that with the meaning of moving forward. And here we are at episode 4, which is the third candle in the collection, faith. And just like I promised, I'm going to take you around the clock. And what I love most about these candles in the collection that I created is that you can actually personalize them. You can add your own message to the candle and to the box that it comes in. So if you know someone who needs a little faith right now, maybe a friend going through a breakup, a family member facing a tough season, or even just yourself as a reminder, this could be such a thoughtful way to say, I'm thinking of you. I'll link to it below in the show notes so you guys can check it out and grab one for yourself or someone you love, because sometimes faith isn't just a word you hear. Sometimes it's something you hold in your hands. And with that, thank you for being here with me today. Thank you for letting me share this part of my story and for being open to reflecting on your own. And as always, stay brave, stay bold, and stay crazy enough.